you want me to take multiple inputs from the user, right? So anything could have been fine. Just take a loop or something and then assign all the variables something this way. Maybe you can do uh, a equals to input of enter space separated numbers, okay, and then dot split. If you run this, okay, let me just increase the font a bit. Yeah, and if you run this 1 2 3, so this is how your values will be coming. So always like run like the pieces of code which are there to see how execution is happening and what you need to do. So if you see here, if I use this input function, then it is coming, the input is coming as a list and it is in string. Okay, then I must convert this to integral values because I have to add at the end, right? So that is one thing, like once you have taken the input, you need to convert it. So all this while, like I have not discussed some of the functions. There are some of the functions like map, which is there. You can say something like this: a equals to map of int, comma. You can give a. Let me give another variable name, but this is also fine. And if I run this b, okay, and let me just convert this to list. Okay, so now all the numbers within this list is converted to integral values. Okay, so all this while I'm not sure like if you have used map or if you are using something else while using while taking user input, uh, you might be doing like going in a for loop, and for every element you might be converting that int function to convert it to integral values from string values. But in one go you can do like whatever values in the list you have, you can convert in one go using this map function. Okay, so this is very handy. Like I'm not sure whether you guys participate in competitive coding or not, but if you don't, start doing that. And there, like most of the times when you are taking user input, you will be required to take uh, these kind of things, like you will need to do map and other things to convert everything to our integral values. Okay, so this is one way. Another way could have been go in a loop, like for I in, or okay, let me take another example. Okay, what I will be doing is while taking user input, just prompt this way, please enter, I mean, I don't know if you remember, like uh, in first class I was giving one example, right? When you know the exact number of iterations, then use a for loop. And if you do not know the exact number of iterations, use a while loop, right? So in first class I was giving this example, like let's say what if there is a code where if you enter 1, the output will be in English one, and if you enter number 2, the output will be string TWO2. Okay, and until user presses Q, it is going to be in loop. Okay, and if you also remember, like I mentioned, there are three kinds of loop: for loop, while loop, and do while loop. And do while loop is not implemented in Python. Okay, and what is do while loop doing? Do while will execute at least one time, right? And I also mentioned that do while is not implemented in Python, but through a trick we can implement that. Let me introduce that thing here itself. So what I'm doing is I'm just giving you one dummy hypothetical example. So while true, okay, I will say if, or maybe here I can say a equals to input, enter a number, or Q to exit. I'm just giving a simple example, okay? Now, if A double equals to Q, break, else, just simple example, print. For now, I'm just doing a print, okay? Print int of A. Now, if I run this, the first thing it is going to do is enter a number or Q to exit, okay? If I hit 1, it will again ask for me to enter a number. 2, again it will ask. It will keep going on. Okay, and if I press Q, it is going to exit from the loop. So this is what? This is do while loop. Because if you see here, without any check, without any condition check, it is executing my while loop once. And then further it is checking. Don't you think we can implement similar thing in other programming language also, which are having a do while loop, and we do not require a do while loop as such, right? Okay, so these are some of the ways you can just use this input function, but always you need to remember that the input functions that you are using is going to accept values from the user in the form of string. And if you are doing any mathematical computation, you have to convert it to a number. That is one. Second thing is, like if you are taking multiple values, element by element, you can convert it to integral values, or you can directly use a map function which will do that for you. So you give map, and to this sequence, what you want to map it to, what function you want to map it to. So I want it to map to integral functions. So like for every element, I want to convert it to integral. So you can think of this thing as this way. This
Sir, map
integral,
function is used only for integer or for string also you can use?
you can use it for string as well. You can use that for string as well. Okay. In fact, here you can have any custom function. Here you can have any custom function. Okay. It's not like just integral. Any function you define yourself and you can have it here. And you need to ensure, like after this, the number of values that you will be passing will be matching to the number of parameters that this function takes. That's okay. So integral takes how many parameters? One, right? Int of one. So it takes one parameter. That's why here I have a. So here you can have any custom function or the predefined functions which are there in Python. Okay, you can use that, and what it will do, a should be a sequence. A should be a sequence. So it will be a sequence of numbers, some m values or n values. So every value in m, like 1, 2, 3, something like this, there are m values. They will be mapped to this your function. So here it is int. All of this will be mapped to this function, and finally you will get an output. This is how it works. Okay. Okay. That is one thing. After that, what we discussed this a do while loop kind of thing. Okay, so you can remember this also. This is how you implement a do while loop in Python, if at all needed. Okay, so here I require a do while loop, right? Like before any condition check, I need to validate what user has input, right? Like what user has passed as an input, because I do not know, maybe he will press Q at the first time itself. So let's say enter a number or Q to exit. I will press Q and it will exit. Nothing happens. Okay. Or else maybe at second time. So 1, and then he presses Q. So first time it has to go inside this loop without any condition check. And after that, maybe it will further check the condition. That is what do while loop does, right? So this is a do while loop for you. This also you can use to take inputs and other things. Okay, even a for loop, like if you know how many inputs you have to take, you can use a for loop for that. Inside that, use a input function. Okay, but like for one line statement, these kind of things are very handy. And similarly, like you will need to tweak your code little bit. The way you take the input, the way your parameters are passed, similarly you have to make changes in your code. So here, because add function, how it works, all you need to do is like you have a function, you so normally in Python 2 plus 4 plus 5, this is how you give. You do not take input from the user in some format. So this is like we are using function name in brackets, we are giving this. So if you remember, like double underscore some functions are there in all of the data structures that you have seen so far, right? Like if you do dir of list or tuple or set or dictionary, you will see some functions which starts with a double underscore and ends with a double underscore. In Python community, they call it as dunder. So double underscore dunder. Okay. So you might have seen such kind of functions. So these are what? These are for overriding these operators. So plus is mapped to this double underscore, and you can always override this. Like if you want to implement your own custom addition. So let's say when I say 2 plus 4, I don't want it to result or give me the output as 6, but I want maybe 2 to the power 4. When I do 2 plus 4, I want the output as 2 to the power 4. So this functionality, how I can override? By overriding this implementation. Okay, so we will see some small examples in object-oriented programming to do that. Okay, but this is how you, right? And then yeah, so this is our second example. I had already shared this zip function example on WhatsApp group. I hope you guys saw that and were able to implement it. Did you guys understand this zip function, or do you still have some doubts or confusion? For prefix problem, we use this zip function, right? So how this zip function works, like if you remember when I was discussing that prefix problem, all I was doing is I was saying take minimum string with minimum length, okay, string with minimum length first, and then start comparison with this string which is having minimum length, okay? Zip function will handle all those things by default. So how zip function works is like it will take sequences. It will take sequences. So string is also a sequence, right? String is also a sequence. So it will take sequences, and whatever minimum is there in that sequence, it will trim everything to that same length, the minimum length, and then it will start doing the operation. So if my uh, in the prefix example, you might have seen if my str1 was Amit and str2 was AMNOPQ, and if I use a zip function, so here I have 4 characters, here I have 6 characters. So it will just take 4 characters from string 2. And then it will start doing the operation. So zip will automatically handle that for you. Okay, that is how zip function works. Now you can give str1, str2 in any sequence. By default, it will be doing that. Now, if I have that, all I need to do is do a comparison element by element. So here to calculate speed also, the idea was this, what I wanted, like maybe you have distance as one list, sorry, distance as one list, speed as one list. But let's say some of the values in this speed is missing, or some of the values in distance is missing. Okay, but assume that it is missing from the ends. So initial sequence is all correct, but it is missing from the ends. And I want to calculate the speed. Then I can use a zip function to calculate the speeds. Okay, because it will take the only those elements, those number of elements, whatever like the count of sequence with the minimum number of values. Okay, so it will handle all those things automatically for you. That is how a zip function works. Okay, and we have 3 problems related to dictionary. The whole idea was that you just iterate over it and everything. So if you see this first problem from this dictionary is, I have a list, and that list is having dictionary as its element. So here, this is a dictionary, this is a dictionary, this is a dictionary, this is a dictionary. And then what I want to find all the products which is having a price greater than 10. Okay, so first I will need to iterate in this list. Then so okay, let me just take this example. Do products. When you are writing code, what you will be doing, just do this, then do print programming. Now I know that it is a list. I can just iterate over this list element by element. So what I will do is for in products print ELE. What happened for Acha? Okay, something like this. Now I know that every element here in this list is a dictionary. You can also check that print type of element. Okay, it's all dictionary. Perfect. Now once I'm iterating, what I will do is, let's take this example again here and remove this whole part. So this is dictionary. Now here for all the dictionary that I have, I need to check the price, and if it is greater than 10, then I need to print it. So what I will say is, if element of price greater than 10, element of price is greater than 10, also a dictionary. And what you have to do first, in the first problem, you have to calculate average of subject marks, and in second problem, you have to calculate average marks secured by the student. And there is just one thing over here. Some of the subjects has marks as none, which means the student did not appear for the exam. So what you have to do is, like while calculating the average, you need to ignore this none value. That is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 values which are there, which is not none. So you will only use these values for your calculation, and divide to calculate average. You will divide by 10, not by 12. Because if you are not considering something for your calculation, even you should not divide by 12, you should be dividing by 10. Okay, 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes. So that is how you have to do. So to do that, like one approach could be this. Like simple, what I have done is I have taken physics marks, physics appeared, chemistry appeared, math appeared. And then if I'm saying physics is not none, that means the marks of in physics is not none, then add that to my physics variable and increment the count, saying that physics appeared equals to +1 initially, which was 0. Similarly for all the subjects, and then average physics marks is physics divided by physics appeared, not the total number of students or anything. How many students appeared for physics exam, that is what I have to divide it by. Okay. Similarly, to calculate average marks of the students, here there is a catch. So if you run this code, like you might be facing divide by 0 error, because one of the student had not appeared for any of the exams. And using the similar approach like what I have used here, if you use this, what will happen? Student L total marks will be 0, and appeared will be also 0. So it will be 0 by 0. So just simple thing I have done here is, if appeared is greater than 0, then only calculate the average mark, else say it is 0. So that's about yesterday's assignment problems. So this is our today's assignment problem. There are just 2 problems for today. One is a factorial number. This is fine. Only thing you need to know here is factorial of 0 is 1, and factorial of 1 is also 1. If it is a negative number or a number for which factorial is not defined, just return -1. Else for 0 and 1, return 1. And for anything else, you, like if you are giving number 5, then your output will be 5 into 4 into 3 into 2. 1 is, you can ignore. 5 into 4 into 3 into 2. That will be your output. Okay. So here for this, you need to write a function which will return our integral values, the factorial computation. So what you have to do, take 3 sides of triangle as an input from the user. You will be taking 3 sides of a triangle as an input from the user. Okay. Now you need to return true for a valid triangle. So there are few properties in geometry. Maybe you can just explore that little bit. But anyways, like I will be giving you the algorithm and I will be suggesting you what to check. But if you are not comfortable with those things, you can always just check those odd things little bit. Okay. So for a triangle to be valid, there is a property which is like if there are 3 sides A, B, and C, A plus B should be greater than C, B plus C should be greater than A, and what else? A plus C should be greater than B. Okay, this is true. Like sum of any two sides of the triangle should be greater than third side, strictly greater than third side. This is what the property is. Or difference of two sides of a triangle should be strictly less than the third side. Okay, that is the property. So when I say return true for a valid triangle sides else false, that is, you need to create a function, you will need to create a function which will return true or false. So it will return true if the triangle is valid. So if the sides that you took as an input for the triangle will actually form a triangle, like you can check for that property, either of them, like either one of them, sum of two sides of a triangle is greater than third side, or difference of two sides of a triangle is less than the third side. If that is true, then your triangle is valid. So you will return true for that. If the triangle is valid, you will return true, else you will return false. That is problem number one. Problem number two is classify the triangle as equilateral, right angled, isosceles, or a scalene triangle. Okay. Now, what is equilateral? When all the three sides are equal, then that is equilateral. Right angled, which is like one of the angle of the triangle is 90 degree. Isosceles, two sides are equal. Scalene, none of the sides are equal, and this is default. If none of them are true, then you by default it will print scalene triangle. Okay. Now here there is a catch. Okay, a right angle triangle can be a isosceles triangle as well, like something like this. So it will be 90 degree, 45 degree, 45 degree. This is also a right angle isosceles triangle. Okay. But if you, in your if then else condition, if you check for isosceles first, what will happen? A right angle isosceles triangle will not be identified. So here is that if then else thumb rule, or the key concept that we discussed. If then else key concept. What was that key concept? Sequence is important in if then else conditions. So here you need to ensure that your sequence of if then else is correct. Okay, now you will need to validate, like again you have taken all the three sides. Here what you will do, so in this second problem, before going to check for whether the triangle is equilateral or right angled or isosceles or scalene, you need to check whether the triangle is valid or not. Correct? For a triangle to be equilateral, first it has to be a valid triangle. Then only it makes sense to check further, right? So you will need to check first whether that triangle is valid triangle or not. Now, think this way. Had we doing this all problem, or had we solving, if we were solving all these problems through scripting style, what would have been there? So valid triangle, I wrote a script, few executables, that is problem number one. In problem number two, I will again copy paste all this code that I have written in my problem number two also. So second point is equilateral, right angled, isosceles, scalene. Okay. Now here, first I will need to check whether the triangle is valid or not. And I have written script here. For second problem, I will need to, if I was doing in a scripting style, I had to copy paste everything here in second. So here you will see the importance of function. What functions will do, you are making your code more modular. You are writing in small modules. Okay, it will hide the complexity of your code, because it will become a lot simpler now. What you will do here, you will create, let's say a function is valid, for example, which will take three inputs or three parameters as sides of the triangle, and then this will return true or false. Okay, now once you have done that, in second problem, what you will be doing is whatever second function. So this is my first function. Second function, I will create a function, let's say classify triangle, This is my function. Here again, I will take three inputs A, B, C. And in this, what I'm going to do is, I will first check if directly I will use this function is valid. Okay, here I will take A, B, C. So what this is doing is valid. This will return true or false. So directly I can write like this. That means if the triangle is valid with these given sets of, with these given sets of sides, if the triangle is valid, then only check if it is equilateral or right angled or isosceles or by default scalene, like if equilateral, if right angled, if isosceles, else scalene. Now how you will be checking for, like you have taken three sides, if A double equals to B double equals to C, then it is equilateral. Similarly, right angled, you need to specify the Pythagorean theorem, like if A square for any of the sides, like if it is A square equals to B square plus C square, for any combinations of A, B, C, in whatever sequence you take A, B, C, if for some combination or some permutation of A, B, C, if you see a scenario where you have this Pythagoras theorem valid, like A square equals to B square plus C square, then you can say it is a right angle triangle. Similarly, for isosceles, you can check A double equals to B or B double equals to C. Then it is an isosceles triangle. Any of the two sides are equal, then it is an isosceles triangle. Else you will print a scalene triangle. Okay, that was problem number 2. Okay, now let's jump to problem number 3. Now, if you go to problem number 3, clear all drawings. Yeah. So this was problem number 1. This was problem number 2, and third problem is, provided the triangle is valid and right angled, return the radius of circumcenter, else return -1. Now, what is circumcenter? Like for any triangle, the radius of this circle, like which is like all the vertices of the triangle is on the circle, then the center of this circle is called as circumradius, or this center is called as circumcenter, and this is your circumradius. Okay, now you need to, but the point here is, I need to calculate circumradius only if this is a right angle triangle. Now there is a property. Okay, the property is this: like if you have a circle and if there is a line which is passing through diameter, then the angle it will make on the circumference is always going to be 90 degrees. Okay, I'm just using the reverse of it now. So I know this property. Now what I will do, because I know this is a right angle triangle, because I know this is making 90 degrees, because you can think of like none of these angles can be 90 degrees. Only this can be 90 degree. Okay. So if this is 90 degree, then this line has to pass through center, or this is my diameter. So my circumradius will be what? D by 2. Okay. I need to return D by 2. Okay, I hope this is clear. And before doing that, what I will need to do, my third function will be circumradius. Let's say this is my function name, and again I'm taking A, B, C as 3 parameters for this function. Again, what I can say is, if this function I will be using, if what was that function? Classify triangle. And this classified triangle is returning what? It is returning strings for me. It is returning this equilateral, right angled, isosceles, scalene. These are the strings which it is returning. So if classified triangle, again take the 3 parameters A, B, C, double equals to right angled. Okay, if this is true, then only check for then only print your circumradius. So if this is true, what you need to do, one of the sides here will be the larger one, the one which is larger one, because this is also like this is sum of all geometry properties. So like if it is there is a triangle, let's say I have sides A, B, C, and C is greater than B is greater than A, and then this angle, small c, small a, small b, will be in same format. So small c will be greater than small b will be greater than small a. So angles, I mean, you will have a bigger angle opposite to the biggest side of the triangle. So all you need to do is like uh, yeah, I mean, the three sides that you have taken, the one which is having the from this the maximum value which is there, that is going to be your diameter for that triangle. Okay, and all you need to return is c by 2. Okay, if c is the maximum value, you will need to return c by 2. If b is maximum, then b by 2. If a is maximum, then a by 2. Okay, but and also if you realize this, here I'm not checking is valid. I'm not checking here is valid. Why? Because in classified triangle, I'm already checking is valid. That's why I'm not checking is valid. But if you want, you can do that. You can add another if is valid, then check if classified triangle equals to right angle, then return the circumradius, else return -1. Okay. So here you will return -1. And when you have, this is how you need, like three inputs you will need to take, something like this. Here I'm giving main program, so that will be all your three functions. So your def is valid is one function. Okay, another function is def classify triangle, and third problem is def circumradius or whatever. So these are three functions, and then you will need to write a main function, because you will need to call these functions, right? Then write a main function, and in that main function, you can do all of these things. You can just copy paste this one, and for this test case, this should be the output of your code. Okay, I'm taking 3, 4, 5 as the sides of my triangle. 3, 4, 5 is what? It's a valid triangle. If you see the property, everything is true here. Okay, that's why it is returning true, is valid. Okay, right angled, because 3, 4, 5, if you see here, 5 square is equals to 3 square plus 4 square. Okay, so this is also true, but this can be in any sequence. You need to handle that scenario. The user can write a 4, 5, 3. This is also a valid triangle where b is the largest side. Okay, so you need to handle that scenario. And to calculate circumradius, because I know my hypotenuse is 5, and that is going to be the diameter. Okay, so I will simply return 5 by 2. Okay, which is 2.5. So for this given sample test case, this should be your output. Any questions?
So what you mean by main function?
No, I don't mean anything by main function. I have just given it a name. Okay, this is just a name. You can have any name for this one. So this function is basically, I'm invoking the rest of my functions like 1, 2, 3 within this main function in some format, and at the end I will just be saying main. To invoke main function, I will write like this, and it is going to invoke one by one everything. There is a question, if the triangle is both right angled and isosceles or a scalene. So see, forget about that. This sequence you have to follow. If the triangle is equilateral, it cannot be right angled. Okay, so if it is equilateral, print equilateral. First check. I do not want to consider anything else. After that, triangle is right angled. Okay, if the triangle is right angled, it can be isosceles. Agreed, it can be isosceles, it can be a scalene. But if it is a right angle triangle, I will print right angle. I will forget everything else. Okay, if the triangle is isosceles, then I will print isosceles. If none of the sides are equal, then I will print scalene. If one of the condition, if in this sequence one of the condition is true, I will not be checking for rest of the conditions. That is what I meant by this statement, okay? Or like when I was discussing, like here you will need to use that key concept of, these are the key concepts, okay? When I'm saying the sequence of if then else should be followed, then follow that sequence. The sequence is going to be very important here. So if it is first, you will need to check whether it is equilateral. Yes, true, print equilateral. If it is right angle, true, print right angle. Forget about anything else after that. Okay, right? I hope the problem is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And with this problem, you might also start feeling or getting that vibe that like why functions are important. So the way I have explained or the way I'm expecting the solution, please try to code in similar fashion. So here, like if you see here, I'm giving everything in that way. Is valid, triangle class, like these are my function names which are taking some parameters. Okay, and all the algorithm or the concepts that I was saying, like before running the triangle class function, before executing triangle class function, within this function, you need to check whether the function triangle is valid or not. All those things that I have been discussing in the class, try to implement in your code. Okay, so once you start coding that way, you will start feeling the importance of functions. It may not be, I may not be able to explain in words, but once you start writing the code, you will start feeling the importance of it. Okay, I hope there is no questions with this problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Second problem, it's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to explain much over here. Only few things that you need to consider. If you are calculating a factorial of 0, the output will be 1. Factorial of 1 is also 1. Now, why factorial of 0 is 1? There is a lot of mathematical discussions on top of that. You can always check those things. Okay, but factorial of 0 is 1. All right. Now we will be so what? Okay, let me just reiterate some of the things that I have covered so far. Because I added two concepts here, like I was using a map function, and then I also introduced do while loop kind of here. So simple idea to implement a do while loop. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let me just go through some of the questions from the chat and see. Okay. Bijay Jaina, he's suggesting one good thing, list comprehension. So I take that one and we will be discussing that today. I mean, this is off topic, not related to functions as such, but we will be discussing this because I had already planned this one for today. List comprehension, dictionary comprehension, and set comprehension. Okay. Then if the triangle, okay, this I have already answered. Okay, there is a question from Justin, sir. Is there any specified main function like we have for C, C++? Yes, there is one, like usually people use in programming, but there is something called as PEP8 documentation. And I mean, for Python, there are some recommended ways of doing things. So according to PEP8 documentation, it is not conventional, or it is not recommended. So you can use _main _ this way. I will explain in one of the examples, don't worry about that. But there is such kind of thing. Okay. Then there is a question, sir, please send all your code snippets. Acha. Okay, not a question. I will be sending everything, and it will be shared with you all. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Like let's start with some of new concepts today. So yesterday we were discussing functions. Okay. All we did yesterday while discussing functions is this. we created a function. So with this def keyword, def, and then I give function name, and then your parameters. Okay. And you give a colon, that is your start of your function. Then you go one tab inside, you write all your logic over here, and somewhere within this function, on this same line, you will have a return statement. The moment this return statement is reached, it is the end of your function. Even if you do not give return, it will go till the last line of execution, whatever sequence or whatever way possible, it will go till the end, and then it will come out of the function with return value of none. Okay, or else whatever you have specified here with return, that will be returned by your function. Okay, that is how a function works. All this while, what we have been doing, we have taken, let's say, some parameters a comma b comma c, and then while calling the functions, you will need to pass all these values, as in, like, while calling the function, how you are going to call, you are going to call something this way: function underscore name, and then whatever values for ABC. So let's say 1, 2, 3. This is how you're going to call your function. Okay. Now, in some of the functions that we were discussing for list, tuple, or even this input function, if you see this, while using input function, we were using this split function, if you remember, right? So sometimes in split, what you are doing, you are giving it quotes, you are giving a comma, or you are leaving as it is. So when you are living as it is, like if you are not passing any parameter, then by default it is taking white spaces, right? By default it is taking white spaces as your delimiter to split the string. Okay. But I'm not passing any parameter. So there could be two possibilities, right? There could be two possibilities. There is a function which with name split, that takes one parameter, just one parameter, whatever delimiter you pass, either question mark, comma, or white space, or tab, or anything, just one parameter. And there will be also a function with no parameters. There is no parameter. But this kind of scenario is not allowed in Python, right? Like we have seen double underscore args for your variable argument, but in general, this kind of scenario is not possible. That is, you cannot have functions with same name. In other programming language, it is there. In Java and everything, you have this overloading concept. This is possible, but in Python, it is not possible. Okay. In general, in Python, I mean, there are ways to handle that, but in general, it is not possible. Okay. Now, how to handle this kind of scenarios? How to handle this kind of scenarios? Like if a user is passing the value, then use that value. And if a user is not passing the value, take some default value. Okay. So we will be discussing that. That is called as your default parameter. So let me just write one simple code. Def test A comma B. Okay. And then what I will do is print A and print B. This is my function. Now if I have to run this function, what I will do? Test 1, 2, right? But if I run the same function, or let's take just one parameter for the sake of simplicity, or maybe let it be. Okay. Now, if I run something this way, test 1, this is going to fail because it will, the Python doesn't know test with just one single parameter. So here it is giving an error message, test missing one required positional argument B, because I have not passed a value for that, right? How to handle this? Let's say I want to build an application, or I want to build a function where if I pass the value, then it will take that value for its computation. If not, it will pick some default values. Okay, so you are seeing the difference, right? Like here I have to exactly pass the number of parameters with that I have specified while defining the function. So what you can do is you can have this double here equals to 999. Okay, now if you run this, because I'm passing A and B value, A is 1, B is 2. But if I'm not passing B value, A is 1 and B is 999. Make sense? Any questions? Okay.
Sir, here B value,
One by one, please. One by one, please.
sir, here B value is assigned. That's why it is test one. It has taken and printed 1 and 199,
Yeah.
999.
So for first value, I have passed it to A, but for B, I had not passed any value because it requires exactly two values, right? Here, I have not passed any value for B. That's why it picked the default value. Okay, there is a like Swayam wants to explain this to again. Okay, I will do that. So let's take this example again. Okay, I shall be back in a minute and then I can explain. Okay, give me a minute. If you guys have any questions, then please post on the group. Okay. Yeah. So I was explaining these functions. Here, let me just remove this part, and then I'm saying test 1, 2. This will work fine, right? This will work fine. It will print 1, 2 for me. Okay. Now, if I say just say test 1, or maybe I do not pass any argument, let's say, it will fail because this function is expecting two parameters to be passed, which I'm not passing. That's why it is saying test missing two required positional arguments, A and B, which I have not passed. So what I will do here is either I can pass 1, 2 the way I have done here, or let's say take this as default parameters, maybe 1 and B is 99, something like this. Now, if I run this, here in this function, I am passing 1, 2. I am passing 1, 2. So the value of 1 and 99 will be overridden, and the value of A will become 1 and B will be 2. Okay. But if I'm not passing any values, then whatever default, so when I say equals to default values, when the values are not passed by the user, pick the default values. So what is default value for A? It is 1. What is default value for B? It's 99. So pick the default values if the user has not specified the values in the parameters. So now if I run this, this will still work picking the default values. So this is how default parameters works in functions. Now you can think this way. The split function, when you are not passing any parameter, the default is space. So somewhere like in Python implementation, they might have written it or coded it that way, like the parameters, the delimiter that you are passing, something like this. Split, let's say split is the function, and I'm saying delimiter equals to like this. Now, if I use split without any parameter, default parameter will be used. Or if I specify parameter, like I give comma, then instead of this space, comma will be used to split the sequence. or the split the string. Clear? Any questions?
Sir, is there any order to assign the default parameters? Suppose A and B is there.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to assign A as 1, but B I have to pass.
A as 1 and B you have to pass.
Yes.
Didn't get to your question.
Sir, I just want to know, is there any order or something that which
Yes, there is order. There is order. All the default values should be towards the end. Fixed parameters which like will require a value from the user will be on the left hand side. Everything that can take a default value will be on the right hand side. Okay, that is how it works. So that is one. Another thing which I wanted to discuss is this. Let's say I have this function. Now I don't know the sequence in which the function is going to accept values. Just for example, let's say I do not know the sequence of values. Okay, so what, or maybe let's do this. X comma y comma radius. Print
or it
x.
can be star argument, that comma, if you can star argument, like we have annotations for taking the multiple parameters. In that case, we can explain a bit like by default parameters.
Okay, I will do that. Okay, let's not confuse in one class. I may not want to dump everything. Okay, just let's hold on for some of the concepts. I will be discussing those things. Don't worry. Okay. So x, y, and radius. Okay. Now if I run this, it will be test 1, 2, and 3. Then your x is 1, your 2, and 3. But let's say the user doesn't know about the sequence of these parameters. For instance, the user doesn't know in what sequence, because here what I'm saying like the x value is 1, y value is 2, and the radius value is 3. That is intuitive. User must know about the sequence. These are called as positional arguments. But let's say user knows that what he has to pass, but he doesn't know about the sequence. Okay, in what sequence to pass, he doesn't know about that, but he knows what to pass, but he doesn't know in what sequence to pass. Then in that scenarios, he can use something called as test. He will say x equals to 1, radius equals to 3, and y equals to 2. So if you see here, while passing the parameters, I have changed the sequence. It's not in the same sequence in which the function is expecting the parameters. It's not x, y, and radius. It is x, radius, and y. But what I have done, I have given this equals to sign to pass the parameters, and this is called as keyword parameters. So like we are using keywords to pass the parameters. Okay, I may not be very exact and precise in the terms that I'm using. Okay, but this is how you will need to understand. So that was positional arguments. Position was important. In what position or in what sequence you are passing the parameters is going to be important. And here, in any sequence you pass, but you specify the parameter name, the function, the parameter name that is used by the function, you specify it, give a equals to sign, and then pass the value. It will still call the same function. Now, if I run this, see, I'm getting in same order, right? X was 1, Y was 2, and radius is 3. The same way, like here, I'm passing 1, 3, 2 as my input, but output, what I'm getting, 1, 2, 3. Here also, when I was passing in the same sequence, I was getting 1, 2, 3. Any question?
So this is called as explicit.
Sir, if we do not pass any value to y,
If you do not pass any value to y, this is going to fail, right? Because here you have not mentioned y as a default parameter, right? If you do not pass any value to y, it will fail. Let's say if you do not pass, here you don't want to pass a value to y, or here you don't want to pass a value to y?
yes, sir, the default argument.
No, this is again, this is not a default argument. This is not a default argument. This is keyword, like while calling the functions, when you are saying equals to value, that is what value you are passing for the variable radius in the function, variable y in the function. But if you do not pass this, this is still going to fail. This is still going to fail. The reason behind this is it requires even the y value unless and until you have defined it as a default value. Because you have not mentioned that y is a default value, it is going to fail. If you want to do that, you can write something like this: x, y, x radius. Y. Please keep yourself on mute. Like after speaking, please keep yourself on mute. Okay. And y equals to?
भेज दिया.
Guys, please keep yourself on mute. Okay. Now if I run this line number 45, if I run this, see here, x I'm getting as 1, radius is 3, okay, and y value have not passed, that's why default y value was taken. Let's say, what if I, so there was one question, if I have some, if I write like this, okay, the definition itself will fail. What it says, none default argument follows default argument. So y is a default argument for me, right? Like if there is no value specified for y, I need to take 9 as the default value. So it should always come at the end. It should always come at the end. It should always come at the ends. Okay. Okay. Okay, there is one question from Ashwini Kumar.
This is the same question I made to the chat latest.
Acha, this is the same question. Okay.
It's the understood.
Okay, thanks, Ashwini. Thanks. Yeah. I hope it is clear now, and there is no further questions here. There are few small things more to functions that I will be discussing in bits and pieces. Don't worry about it. Okay, but let's not discuss everything in one go. Okay, it is not going to be helpful. I hope this